Hey everyone, it's Nakul from Wiki. We've got Jacob from Trypod for our NBA Weekly Pod again. Jacob, welcome again.
Thanks, mate. Excited to talk about a couple of games we've got tomorrow. Went all right last week. I think 1 from 2. Adebayo was a little short, I think 19 points, but Kaminga came up massive. I mean, my tip was 20 plus, which the best price was around 350, but he scored 31. So I did
Ooh,
see about $7 or $8 you could get for 25 plus and even $15 for a 30 plus. And
nice.
he exceeded 20 plus again the following game, which was one of the games of the season when the Warriors. It helps when it goes to double overtime for sure. But Warriors Lakers was one of the best games I've seen in a long time. So at least we're coming off a juicy winner. Not to mention the form we've had in our NFL pod. Hopefully, some people that watch us talk NBA every week also like the American football where the results have been ridiculous.
Yep. I forgot the exact numbers, but I'm pretty sure you've had three first touchdown scorer picks 3 weeks in a row, and I think 11s, 13s, and then 34 to 1 this week. Is that right? 11, 13, 34?
You're selling me short. The first one was 11.50.
Whoops,
But yeah, pretty close,
11.50.
pretty close. And that's I think we've only gone 2 games a week, so like
Mm.
2 picks a week. So it's not exactly like three in a row, like they're the only pick,
Yep,
but
yep.
pretty close. Yeah, you don't expect to hit that kind of strike rate, but you want to just give yourself a chance and hopefully find a good price. The odds comparison tool helps us getting the very best price, but hopefully the reasoning's also been strong there because most of the teams I've kind of dialed in on have been successful through the NFL playoffs. So can't wait till next week when we do the Super Bowl preview. We'll have to wait and see what we can come up with for that one.
Hell yeah. So as always, guys, the podcast that you're either watching or listening to, you can find that. Just Google Wiki Linktree, the odds comparison tool that you'll see on your screen. Same deal. All of like our Discord, our community, all of our stuff is free to check out if you Google Wiki Linktree. And obviously Jacob's run Tripod Hunters Tips Forum, the Facebook group for almost a decade now. Yeah, it's almost there. It's 31st of January today. We're into February NRL trials. The NRL season, which obviously Jacob's a specialist in, is not too far away. So you can check out his stuff there. But let's get into it. Let's go Nets and Suns first up, Jacob.
Yeah, so just talking about Phoenix, I will say I think that they're a legit contender, and I think they may be a little bit under the radar. Like everyone's got to look at Denver, the defending champions, and I'm a Nuggets fan, so I should be biased towards Denver, but I couldn't back Denver because I feel like you're not getting any kind of advantage in the marketplace because everyone's aware how good they are, and for sure they'll be in the mix. The team I really loved earlier in the year that I was buying up is the LA Clippers. And I was a believer when they got Harden, and I've been a believer. I think I talked about like it wasn't successful, but I backed them in the in-season tournament. The ability of a Kawhi Leonard and Paul George when healthy, and I got the Clippers at $18 just to win the West. They're like into maybe $7 or $8 to win the whole championship now. So maybe like $3 or $4 in the West. So they're a contender. But now that I'm sitting on that ticket, the team I'm probably most worried about is Phoenix. You've got other sides in the West like Minnesota, Oklahoma City. I feel like those teams will probably need a playoff experience. But the Phoenix Suns, they got Kevin Durant, who I think is as unstoppable as any player in a playoff series when he's on. Devin Booker's form's been ridiculous. I think the signing of Bradley Beal, he's shown some flashes. Nurkic trade worked pretty well, and Grayson Allen's been shooting the lights out. So I've really liked Phoenix. I've been riding them kind of on their winning streak, although they've lost a couple of late. But generally, Phoenix looks really dangerous. Then you've got Brooklyn. For one, they're at home in this game, and they're kind of a curious side because they're not that good. They're coming 10th in their conference out of 15 teams. But when you're 10th, you're actually still in the playoff picture. You're still in a position to play a player in game. And the interest, especially for Aussie NBA fans, believe it or not, I feel like Ben Simmons could hold the key to this team. I really like the depth of the roster there in Brooklyn. And if Simmons can be a legit contributor on both sides of the ball, that's an 8 or 9 man rotation that is going to be really frisky. And Simmons, I think it was his first game of the year. He just came off the bench and nearly had a triple double. Like the numbers were really impressive. And if he can add anything like that in terms of that level of production, I would be backing the Nets more often than not. So I've got a couple of teams I really like. Can't
Nice.
do much in terms of a side bet aside then because I want games where it's lopsided where I think there's an overvalued side where I think both of these in terms of ability are under the radar. So in terms of the player who I'm going to back for a good performance, I mentioned KD. This was his home for I think about 3 or 4 seasons. Okay, so KD made that big free agency move to Brooklyn. It just didn't quite work out. I feel like nobody remembers that that Brooklyn team was the best team in the NBA in 2021, and they lost to the Bucks in overtime in Game 7. They had KD shot where his shoe was an inch over the 3-point line. They would have won that series. With Harden was on one leg and Kyrie Irving was injured. So their second and third best players were basically incapacitated, and they still nearly beat the Bucks, but they just fell short. And then the Bucks went on and won the championship, and everyone talks about what a great championship that was. The Nets were better. Just that pretty much summed up his tenure there. That they could never get it together for various reasons throughout that time. So KD moved on. Yeah, he may put up a big score against Brooklyn, but I don't think there's any hard feelings on his side. Like, he was the one that wanted to leave. The player who got traded away, who had to make way for Kevin Durant, is Mikal Bridges, now known as Brooklyn Bridges. So he's the guy who I feel will always want to have a big game against Phoenix. I know it's not his first encounter against the Suns since the trade, but nevertheless, Bridges is the best player on the Nets. You know he's going to be up for the game. If we look there, 25 plus is $1.95, right? So his over-under set right around 25. So I like that over-under, but for more value, I'm going to be playing the best available price, about 30 plus. So that's something I've twisted Nakul's arm to add to the comparison tool, and we'll see. At this stage, the way I use the tool is if I like a player for a higher threshold, I look at who's got the best price for 25 plus. It's going to give me an indicator of the market and often tip you off into who might have the best odds. But you do have to go and investigate that just to be sure. That will be my plan. I'd expect odds maybe around the $4 mark and maybe in excess for Bridges to score 30 plus against his former team.
Awesome. All right, cool. Let's move on to the other game. Is that the Bucks, did you say?
Yep, that's right.
Yep, sweet.
So
awesome.
People probably are aware that the NBA kind of format, they'll often say in terms of the fixture, Team A at Team B. So the team listed second is the home team, and that's the way I've described it there. It's Bucks at Blazers, but because Aussie format is often to have the home team first, that's how it shows in the odds comparison tool, right? And often it can be confusing because some bookies will also put the home team first for American sports. So, just double check that because it can make a difference. In this case, it is important who's at home because the Portland Trailblazers are hosting their, beloved prodigal son in Dame Lillard. So it's another homecoming, a true homecoming game in this case. But just on the Bucks, there's been a crazy drama in the last couple of weeks too because they sensationally replaced their head coach. It's his first season with the team. His record was like 30-13, one of the best in the league at the time, but they just weren't quite happy. They didn't feel they were going in the right direction. They took the opportunity to add a very experienced head coach in Doc Rivers, who's got let's say, a patchy playoff resume, but nonetheless, they've gone with Doc, and success this year will be determined by how Milwaukee does play in the playoffs. So a game like this, very early in the piece, we can't really judge Milwaukee, but we do know that they'll want to play well for Dame. And I know this will seem pretty simple, and the bookies are going to be aware of this, but I don't think it's wrong to just play Dame Lillard in his first game against the Blazers as a visitor and just play him for high scoring milestones. We're going to have the same issue where I think his over-under is like a 30 and a half. So I'm actually going to be looking for 35 plus and 40 plus. I know that the bookies can reduce their odds if it's a popular pick, but sometimes they just can't adjust it enough, and you just can't factor enough how much it is when a player just wants to shoot it nearly every time down the floor, and when the rest of his teammates are looking for him. And Dame is the kind of player who needs very little reason or space to pull the trigger. So he's a guy shooting like 9 threes a night, making about 3 of them. But in a game like this, I could easily see him shooting 13, 14, 15 threes. And maybe that's another angle that I was meant to look at. So again, we don't have every single market available. You see their Dame for 3+ threes, $1.60. I mean, I would be looking to see if there's anything outlying for like a Dame 5+ threes. And as I said, I'll be playing Dame. I would be laddering like a 35+ and a 40+ because he's gonna have the volume of shots. I know that like he'll say the right things. He's just there to try and win, and he may facilitate to a degree. But if he gets hot, there's gonna be stages of the game where he's gonna put on a show. I really believe so. I think I would not be surprised if Dame's kind of makes 5 or 6 threes in this game, scores 40 points. So I will play him for those larger milestones, and think that a couple of the other stars like Giannis will take a back seat and let Dame, have a special night.
Awesome. Well, yeah, just as we're going to catch up with our developers next week and actually finally work on this stuff. And we've got our last potty. I think we're doing the last one next week in line with the preview of the Super Bowl. Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, I'll actually have a chat with them to see if we can do it just before the last potty. But if not, I think in the next week or so, we'll start working on all the tech stuff to upgrade these tools a little bit. And obviously, we're going to start working on the try score odds comparison tool, the AFL goal scorer one, which we're adding this year as well, and sprucing up the NBA one a little bit. So remember, guys, all this stuff is free. Just Google Wiki Linktree to check out the odds comparison tool, the podcast that we're doing now. And yeah, we'll get straight into this, the NFL Super Bowl preview for touchdown scorer picks next week, and our final NBA one for the season as well. So it's been good fun, Jacob. We'll catch you next week.
Has been great fun, mate. Cheers. I'll talk to you soon.